Trap squad, 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 trap squad. Hey, clickbaity political. Yeah, thirst trap, trap squad, squirrel squad. Our mission is critical to speak the truth to the masses. Yeah. We here for the fight. We ain't started, but we here to finish it. Sick and tired of seeing the privilege. Take advantage of the weak and the innocent. So we let a voice be heard. Every single weeknight, unapologetic. Black people, despite this white supremacist system that we live through on a daily, we still throwing up those acorns cause we represent clickbaity. Trap squad, trap squad, trap squad, let me hear ya. Trap squad, trap squad, throw those squirrels up if you with it. Trap squad, trap squad, yeah I see you, yeah I see you. Trap squad, trap squad, trap squad, thirst trap, trap squad, trap squad, trap squad, let me hear ya. Trap squad, trap squad, throw those squirrels up if you with it. Trap squad, yeah I see you, yeah I see you. Trap squad, trap squad, trap squad, thirst trap.
It is now streaming live on Facebook. You know what that means? It means that time of week.
It's that time of week.
You know what? I believe in daylight saving time. I believe in CP time. I believe in all the times that we can have available. And time now is 8:37. We are a little bit late. That just means we built the anticipation. This is tantric political talk right now. This is tantric clickbaity. We are raising your level of interest with the use of technological advancement. Anyway, I am Dr. Jason Johnson. To my bottom right now is Mr. Marcus Farrell.
What's up, everybody? Nice to be with my brothers again and everybody watching.
To my left, a la Brady Bunch, is Mr. Mondale Robinson.
What's good, y'all? Mandela Black Male Voters Project. We in here.
So today we have quite a bit of a show for you guys. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. Please, 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 we say this at the beginning. Tweet us, click us, comment, and invite your friends to come and chat with us as we have our sort of exciting organic conversation today. So we got a bunch of different topics we want to get through. Number one, I always like starting with this. I think it's important. I think it's critical. I think it's meaningful. First and foremost, I have to ask Marcus, what does your shirt say? And why should we care? I have to ask these questions. Whenever anybody wears interesting clothing, I gotta ask. So what's the shirt say, Marcus?
Harriet Tubman with the gun.
I don't know what it is.
So Mr. Tubman was a movie that there was a controversy made about that a African or European Black woman got to play the role of her in a movie.
Isn't she dating Lena Waithe?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, she's an actress dating Lena. Okay.
So, you know, Harriet, the Black abolitionist, former slave, led over 1,000 Black people, Black slaves to freedom through Ohio, I believe was the state that she
from the window to the wall.
Yeah, from the window to the wall. The one thing the reason why I wore her shirt today was because she was the epitome of the Second Amendment. She was a Black woman that was strapped and packing heat at all times. And I mean, we can talk about this later, but the reason why I love Harriet Tubman, in hindsight, not only did she get us free, and not only did she say some amazing things like, I would have freed 1,000 more if they had known they were slaves, but—
Question, and this is a legitimate question for the audience, Mondale, anybody can jump in on this. Did she actually say that? Because like some people say that she said that, and some people say that that's something that was made up. And I objectively do not know. Did Harriet Tubman actually say, I would have freed 1,000 more if they knew they were slaves?
I mean, you know, we could either Google it or like go to our cell phones and find where she said it.
But I've heard both. Like I've read Google stuff where they say that's a fake quote. Like the one where Lincoln says, don't believe anything you read on the internet. And I know that's not true because he only used Yahoo.
Yeah, so I mean, the gist of this shirt is if you're able and legally able to go ahead and get you some heat, go ahead and learn how to shoot. Something that Monda's been picking on me about, but learn how to shoot, get you some self-protection, and don't be afraid to exercise your Second Amendment right, Black people.
Now I want to point out, both Mondale, what branch of the service did you serve in?
United States Marine Corps, or as everybody else like to call it, Uncle Sam's misguided children.
And Marcus, what branch of the military did you serve in?
I'm a Navy corpsman. I'm United States Navy, and Marines always ride in Navy ships. That's what Marines mean.
That's what Marines. And Navy stands for never again volunteer your service. But we'll.
Now, as the only person here who is not a veteran, who has never been technically trained to use a gun one way or another, I participate by wearing famous Malcolm X shirt here. He stays ready at the door with the shotgun and the rifle, showing that the appreciation of the Second Amendment is not just for Southern crazy people. It is for individuals who want to. Who's the photo? I'm intrigued.
It's Malcolm X when he was 9 years old.
Young Malcolm.
It's Malcolm when he was 9.
Before.
Yep. I see him every day.
All right, so we're going to start off our show today, as we usually do, with our coronavirus news of the day. Eventually, we're going to get a horn, and we're going to make some music, and we're going to show like viruses in the background, various viruses. We'll have coronavirus, we'll have SARS, we'll have like herpes, we'll have AIDS, whatever viruses you can think of, we're going to throw them out there. We're just going to have them floating around in the background. Now, it's like that. Look, it's a virus discussion. It's a virus discussion, okay?
Okay, all right.
We can have a big sign that says McAfee in the background. We can have computer viruses as well. So anyway, we'll begin with Mondale. Mondale, break it down for us real quick. What is your coronavirus news of today?
I think, and this is going to lead into what I know what you want to talk about, Jason. It's the fact that Africa is doing corona right, and the world is excluding Africa's techniques and what they're doing. The moves that they're making from the conversation on how to get over coronavirus or how to correct it. We talk about all the time about Germany and New Zealand and also Switzerland, how they, tackled coronavirus correctly. But, if you look at what's going on in Africa, some of the largest countries in the world, especially most metropolis, and they aren't having a problem that we are in America with coronavirus. So I think I want to lift up Africa today. And I know you wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yes, we're going to get to that. I'm gonna make that sort of one of my commentaries about how this pandemic is being perceived around the world. Marcus, what is your coronavirus news of the day?
Listen, Dr. Fauci spent 2.5 hours basically just throwing Donald Trump under the bus and everything that he said to the United States Senate. He went and he talked about whether the United States of America is prepared to open back up and the dire consequences of it. Of course, Rand Paul from Kentucky had to throw his libertarian/Republican thought process in, saying that you are not the only voice that matters, and there's other people on the other side that disagree with you. So after that statement, it made me go ahead and look and see exactly who is on the other side that's disagreeing with Dr. Fauci. And to be quite honest with you, there's not many credible doctors in America right now that disagree with Anthony Fauci about opening up America right now, opening up, and the dangers that could face, especially in September. And I think the U.S. Senate was concerned with that. The amazing part about this was that there were some Republican U.S. senators who, they might policy-wise, they might just go against it and go with the grain of the presidency. But during this questioning today, there were real questions from Republicans that I thought, wow, they actually might care, or somebody is actually looking at them. So it was the first sign to me. Dr. Fauci's testimony today was the first sign to me that Republicans are concerned about the backlash of how we're handling the coronavirus. With Florida opening up the beaches today, closing back up the beaches today, with Arizona opening up the gyms tomorrow. We're in a place where these governments are trying to test the waters, and all they're going to find is they're going to kind of keep repeating the cycle of more folks getting the coronavirus. So my story of today is that.
Mondale, you really think that these senators actually give a crap one way or another? Do you actually think this is an issue of senators caring, or do you think it's something else at play?
It is?
I think it's something else at play. I'm just curious.
Yep, I'm with you, Jason. I know what's at play. They're saying their tea leaves. Donald Trump's support is dropping. He's dying in the polls. I've even seen an article that said Republicans know that Donald Trump's going to lose, so they're already starting to make this about face against him, and he's about to find out what it means to be a lame duck president even before the election.
I don't know if Donald Trump's going to lose, but I know this: they ain't just dropping like it's hot. It's dropping like a rock. His numbers everywhere are wretched. And the saving grace of the Trump presidency has always been a healthy economy. And you have 80,000 people who have died and 30 million people who have lost their jobs in the last 2 months. Those are the kinds of numbers that you usually associate with an alien invasion, and Trump is no Bill Pullman. So this is clearly going to be a problem as we continue with these kinds of numbers down the road. Now, I think, here's the thing, because I'm going to talk about Africa near the end of the show. My coronavirus story of the day, and I've talked about this a little in the past, but I think this is really, really key, is the increasing mutations of this disease. I am not a doctor, but I often play one on TV. I am not a medical doctor. I'm what I call a fake doctor because I have a doctorate. And the more I hear and the more I read about coronavirus, the less anybody knows. And that's not an excuse for people to not take care of themselves. But clearly, first they thought this stuff was respiratory. Now it's causing brain problems. Now they've got this thing where they call it coronavirus toe, which is causing children's toes to curl up and get gangrenous. You've got the strokes, you've got the lung problems, you've got the breathing problems, you've got the blood clot problems. I don't know where this virus came from other than like the pits of hell. But the more we learn, the more different ways it seems to be killing people and the more ways it seems to be causing long-term medical issues. And I'm going to say this now, much to the joy of people like Marcus and perhaps even some people in the audience. While I could care less about how people argue one way or another about Medicare for all, I will say this, and I've said this before, and I will repeat this every single darn week until we get to election time. There must be a radical overhaul of the American healthcare system if we are going to contend with the long-term results. I'm not just talking about solving coronavirus, the long-term results of coronavirus. Now, with that in mind,
how you gonna pay for it, Jay?
We're going to talk about, see, here's the thing. This whole paying for things.
America ain't paid for nothing in a long time. Have you seen our deficit?
I'm shocked to hear that from you. To quote your old boss, no one ever asks us how we're going to pay for wars. So there you go. We're doing, now, mind you, that's not true. People do ask about how you pay for wars, but you know, hey, that's what happens. So with that in mind, we're actually going to talk, this is a good spin, to talk about Joe Biden. Now, I think Joe Biden has a very good chance of becoming president of the United States. That's not a hot take. That's not difficult. That's just math. But Joe Biden,
clickbaity. Is that clickbaity?
I mean, I'm just saying. Joe Biden has rolled out a new deal, a brand new deal that he's got for America. So, Mondale, what do you think of Joe Biden's new deal? Is it a new deal? Is it the old deal wrapped in new paper? Is it a deal that actually matters to our people? And is it a deal that's actually going to address the issues going on in this country?
Here's my problem with Joe Biden's idea of this new deal. The new deal, what it cost the American government in today's dollars would have been about $653 billion. That sounds like Joe Biden. That sounds like Joe Biden's lift every voice if you expand it to the entire country, right? Mm-hmm. So mine is the fact that it's $1 billion and not $1 million. Here's my thing. I'm not going to discourage I'm not going to make Marcus mad this early in the show. What I will say is if Joe Biden is not explicit in his new deal, naming what's for Black people, then it's going to be as much of a failure as the old New Deal.
Mr. Farrell, are you going to jump in and you're just going to dump all over the fact that Joe Biden is trying so hard for you brown people? His level of commitment to you brown people, and none of you all are ever satisfied. All you do is complain.
I mean, I think at this point we've earned our complaining, don't you think? I mean, 400 years of slavery, people getting shot in the streets, high blood pressure rates just from living in the damn country. Get out.
I heard that was from fried chicken and going by old construction sites, but that's just Candace Owens.
Yep. Yeah.
That's just Candace Owens.
That is just God. Like, eventually we need to get a sound button so we can be like, or every time just said, because she's ridiculous. Listen, I mean, I read the article that came out about Joe Biden's big FDR plan. It's a good read. I will post it in the links. It's very interesting how, him and the Tara Reid issue was a part of the article. And if he could really, policy-wise, it sounds like Joe Biden understands.
Now, I'm going to ask this real quick, Marcus. And I think this is key for both of you guys. We've talked about this before. It's bounced back and forth. We mentioned this when we were in our production meeting earlier today. Y'all can comment, post, whatever it is. I don't know anybody outside of the Twitterverse that gives a crap about the Tara Reid accusations. I really don't. And I'm not saying that has no bearing on the substance of the accusation. I'm saying I don't know anyone who is not actively involved and engaged in politics whose mind is in any shape, way, or form on those accusations. I'm just wondering, when y'all hear from like people who don't do this for a living, do they care?
Jason, this is very important. Republicans got money, so it might not be an issue right now while we're still feigning the idea of a primary election. But we act as if that Republican PACs aren't going to do everything they possibly can, take out everything they can, and dissuade Democratic voters from showing up to the polls, or even persuading voters to go to Donald Trump, right? So it's not the issue of do we know right now, right? It's the issue of is it going to exist going further, right? And let's be very honest with you. Someone who is just developing the idea. So I need to go back to your initial question to me. Someone who's just developing the idea that, oh, wow, like Joe Biden woke up like a couple of weeks ago and said, wow, America really is in trouble. I might have to do something for American people instead of Wall Street, right? We might have to look at things that FDR would have done, right? And if he doesn't get that out fast enough, if he doesn't get those talking points out fast enough, and to be honest with you, there are many middlemen in between Joe Biden's talking points and them going into policy that are very constructive to the Democratic Party and to the establishment, not even Democratic Party, just the establishment, that are going to be like, hey, you know what? That's not a good idea. Joe Biden says, I want $1 billion to go into healthcare. They might say, well, you're going to end up getting 100,000, right? Because that's the way it works. So the last thing I want to say is, like, Tara Reid, you can say what you want to, but until there's $2 million in the state of in these important general election states that are put on television blasting Tara Reid, accuser Joe Biden does this, that, and the other, I mean, it could subvert voters, man. So it's something that we need to look out for.
Also, Jason, just to answer that question that you posed, the second one, because I answered the first one already. I think it is an issue, and I think people are worried about it. Here's what I think Joe Biden needs to do. He needs to take Tara Reid up on her offer of taking this lie detector test. I mean, this is what. Listen to me. This is what. Well, I'm not saying that the lie detector test is going to clear his name. I am saying, though, this is the very least he can do. She said this is her offer. Let's do it, because we, as progressives and the left, rode hard with Blasey Ford because of her passing the lie detector test. So if that is the standard and it's been offered by the accuser, then I think we should move down this road. Also, it's worth noting that a brother's career was massacred, killed, done for in Virginia. Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax, gone. And he took 2 lie detector tests from the same person that gave Blasey Ford her lie detector test and passed both of them, right? So I think this is the very least that Joe Biden can do to prevent exactly what Marcus is talking about, where Republicans will use all of this as banter come closer to the election time.
Hey, Jason, dare I say the words hypocrisy?
Y'all entertain me so much. And if I
are you not entertained?
If I lived in this world of sincere, authentic belief that you guys seem to bathe in, along with milk and shea butter every morning, I would probably agree with you. But I do not. I do not. If I were Joe Biden, I wouldn't answer a darn thing. This story has fallen apart like so many tender blocks or a Lego set or Jenga. And if the story is falling apart on its own, then I would not, from a political strategy standpoint, not again from an issue of validity. I am only talking about political strategy standpoint. I wouldn't be saying a darn thing. I would be dealing with coronavirus and everything else like that. Should 5, 6, 7,000 more accusations come forward? Should complaints come forward? Should additional information come forward? Because again, evidence is a term that's only used in legal terms. Then maybe. But strategically, if I was Joe Biden, I wouldn't be saying anything. And
here's the problem. Here's the problem with that, though. Let me say the problem with that is unaddressed problems in politics are real facts. Unfortunately, that's how it is. When Donald Trump says something that's false and no one corrects him, it becomes the truth, the new truth. So it is Joe Biden is obligated to address this for 2 reasons. One, because we get to hear if he has nothing to worry about, take the lie detector test. Take the lie detector test.
If I didn't do it, why would I take a lie detector test?
Because this is what we demanded of the other side.
But see, here's the thing, and this is, again, I'm speaking purely from a strategic standpoint, not a moral or ethical or any sort of standpoint one way or another. If I'm Joe Biden and I say I didn't do it, the burden of proof is on the person making the accusation. And the person who is making the accusation,
just like evidence is.
Exactly. But again, from a PR standpoint, the burden of proof is still on the accuser. It really is. The accuser's got to come up with some sort of smoking gun. Hey, I got this memory, I got this memory, I got this, that, or the other. And literally the things that Ms. Reed has said would corroborate her story have yet to be brought forward. I mean, if this report that she mentioned before, if it actually had the word sexual harassment, she said she might have written it on a dry erase board or something else like that outside the office. Those are the kinds of things that would make me, as Joe Biden, a candidate, say, look, when you bring some information forward, then we'll talk about it. But until then, I'm going to keep running for the primary. I wouldn't be responding to any of this stuff. But again, that is me if I were offering strategy to Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's political suicide.
You people on your moral high roads, I don't know if you represent your average voter.
Jason Mondale, all I got to say is my black ass couldn't run for dog catcher and have a white woman accuse me of anything. And that's the thing I want to bring out. That's the thing that's just the thing that I want to just bring to the forefront in all of this, right? I mean, if this had came out at the heavy degree during the heat of the primary season, then I promise you that it might be a couple of different voices. This is a coalescing of our Democratic Party. No matter how we try to cut it, it's a coalescing of the Democratic elite and the Democratic establishment, basically saying, okay, we got our guy. It's going to be way too complicated for our guy to find another guy or gal like Hillary Clinton or whatever. And it's going to be way too hard to do that. So you know what? Deny. And unfortunately, this moment damn near destroyed the Me Too movement because of hypocrisy. The Democratic Party literally canceled the Me Too movement over Joe Biden, and that's hey, listen, as long as
I wouldn't say cancel.
So, Marcus, I want you to clarify what you mean by that. What do you mean the Democratic Party has canceled the Me Too movement? That's a very weighty statement, and I want to make sure that you can clarify that, lest you be misinterpreted. What exactly do you mean by that?
We spent 5 years basically saying we need to believe all women. And Tara Reid, no matter who you are, she didn't get the same kind of belief that organically came in situations past, right? There was inquiries that were made up. There were a lot of technical tests that were made up. Right now, it's just articles pointing at each other. Now, listen, if her story is weak, then her story is weak, and that's what you believe. If her story is true, then her story is true, and that's what you believe. But my problem with the whole thing is don't practice hypocrisy in this thought process. Show the same energy at all times with the same people, no matter what. And that's
I'm not gonna say Me Too has been canceled because it's an important part, hopefully an important part of this, like our systems going forward, institution going forward. I will say, as the Democratic Party, supposedly the party of Me Too, this definitely does not look good. It does not look good for you have sold out your ally in this situation. This is what happens when white people turn their back on black people for being loud about what's happening to them, and when it's somebody that they love, that's being accused of something wrong as it pertains to race. So I'm telling you that the Democratic Party and all of its auxiliaries must answer for Joe Biden, lest we have this stain on us forever. Because this
I gotta say this. There's a couple things I want to make clear here, though, and this is my understanding, and I think it's very important that people make this distinction. Look, who actually started Me Too, what Me Too means, et cetera, et cetera. But I think what's very key, and I think that it's regardless, I don't know what the full public understanding is that would require polling and additional information, but believe all women. It's almost a bad faith argument to say that means that you don't investigate what people say. You believe in the sincerity of the accusation. I believe in the sincerity of the accusation. I believe Tara Reid really does think, that she was inappropriately treated. And that's the fairest thing I can say, because again, we're not in a court of law. Tara Reid does believe what she is saying, but it is our job and our responsibility as people who develop public narratives, as people who are involved in politics, as people who are concerned about the body politic and the treatment of women and the treatment of men and everybody else in this country, that just because someone makes an accusation, it means we believe the sincerity of the accusation, but we also investigate it. Believe all women doesn't mean that everything somebody says.
We haven't investigated, Jason. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That Joe Biden is getting a pass that no other man received that was accused in this manner. Joe Biden has been accused on a national scale at a level that is equal to what happened to Kavanaugh when he was going through his confirmation hearings. Yet what's happening to Joe Biden is not what happened to Kavanaugh. And I'm just being 100. It's not what happened to Justin Fairfax.
You had three different people accused. You had three different people.
Okay, so let me change it up then. Let me change it up for you. Let me change it up for you. He's not being treated the way that Al Franken was treated. He's not being treated the way that Attorney General Keith Ellison was treated. He's not being treated the way that Justin Fairfax was treated. All he has to do, in my eyes, all Joe Biden needs to do is take the test. Just like this, she says she's willing to take the test. He can take the test, and then we're done with it. If we are done with it.
But that doesn't end anything. Taking tests doesn't end accusations.
This is what she said. No, this is what she said.
The normal narrative about a test, the normal narrative, it gives the onslaught of Republican ads that are going to come out of this. The one piece that we can use to fight back as a political operative is, guess what? I'm gonna lay it all.
Nobody did what she said.
I laid it all on the line. The Republicans are pushing this narrative, and I took a test. And guess what? Even if, and I mean, let's be honest, right? Like the amount of scrutiny that everybody else has, there hasn't been one iota of it, right? But to be honest,
Marcus, who would conduct the investigation? If you're saying that there needs to be, that this hasn't been treated, who would conduct because the investigation of Al Franken was taken care of by the Senate. The investigation of Brett Kavanaugh, to the degree that we had one, was a very narrow cast investigation run by the Republican Party through the FBI.
But the Al Franken, they were telling
inside and outside groups. So
nobody investigated Justin Fairfax, and as it pertains to Al Franken, they were calling for that brother to resign immediately. Some of the people that are defending Joe Biden call for Al Franken to resign the day the allegations.
Yes, they are.
Say her name.
Same day. Keith Ellison. Same exact day that it came out.
Same day. That's no investigation.
But again, my question is, who should conduct an investigation into the credibility of the accusations? That's my question.
I'm not asking for an investigation. I'm asking Joe Biden to do what the accuser asked him to do.
But why should he do that?
The same reason,
like objectively, why?
Because it gives validity in her mind to someone that accused him.
I mean, listen, and to be honest with you, like I've heard all kinds of conspiracy theories about, it's amazing when we test our favorites, how every single thing that could be possibly wrong is wrong. All of a sudden, a lie detector test is not a good way to tell if Joe Biden lied or not, because a lie detector
the progressives are running ads on it.
And it only happens when it's our favorites. Now listen, I am an anti-Trump voter, but I refuse to sit on this planet and watch a lady who said, okay, something might have happened, and then not bring any kind of validity to it, knowing for a fact that number one, I'm a black male. If that happened to me, I'll be out of gas. And number two, that the treatment is consistently within our own party has been, cancel, fire, cancel.
Let me be super personal right now. And this is crazy. I know, right? On social media, on a podcast, a video podcast, but Marcus is aware of this. Once someone accused me of sexual assault, right, Marcus?
Yeah.
And she went home to her boyfriend and made up all types of like what happened when she was in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, I'm talking about like my employer was involved, all of this. But she deleted all of the text messages that she sent me and everything, all of the emails, everything. But for me having messages, having to prove that I had messages from this woman, and my homeboy owning the spot where she was and had video of actions like that took place, I would be, who knows where I would be. So what I'm telling you is, if this is not something that just happens to famous people running for office. This happens to all of us. So what is obligated though is, so when you ask who investigates, I'm not sure who investigates, but I know what has to happen. You are to meet the expectations of the accuser. I did that. So she said something. I sent all of the information. Like, this is what she said to me. This is what happens. Oh, by the way, my friend owns the club. Here's the video, unedited. So if that is the standard for Fairfax, Ellison, me, and every other brother and everybody else, then it should be for our favorite politician.
I'll tell you
I'm not talking about yours, Marcus, and mine. I'm talking about the Democratic Party.
I'll tell you guys this. It's very interesting that we live in a world, as Marcus, as Mondo just gave an example. We live in a world where all too often the words of different kinds of people aren't believed. Men are believed more than women. Whites are believed more than blacks. Older people are believed more than young people, based on nothing other than our preconceived notions and our biases and our prejudices. And even when there is actual video evidence, there's still people who doubt, which is something that we've seen with this recent case with Ahmaud Arbery, right? Where even though there was video evidence of him clearly being hunted down like an animal and murdered. And by the way, there is no greater self-own in the entire history of bigotry than a guy who released that video because he thought it would exonerate his two friends. We got to say that one's amazing. Aim high, buddy. But at the same time, we also have the recent video that was released that shows that Ahmaud Arbery was jogging. He went to a construction site, looked around inside for less than 3 minutes, and went jogging. The attack on that video and the attack on Ahmaud Arbery has come from all sorts of sources. Far right-wing people, racist trolls, Candace Owens, who I think is pretty much just a troll on a regular basis. But an interesting outgrowth of this has been defenses of Ahmaud Arbery from Black conservatives. So Marcus, I want to toss this to you first. First off, does it even matter that Black conservatives are defending Ahmaud Arbery? Should we give a crap one way or another? And what actually amounts to defense for something that obviously seems to be a crime to anybody who has a heart, common sense, and functioning eyeballs?
APEC has already put out their talking points about the case. I don't know that for certain, but if you recall,
APEC?
APEC.
APEC. Oh, okay. I didn't understand what you're saying.
The American Republican, whatever think machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just talk about it. If you look at the timeline, all of a sudden one day, and it maybe 3 days after the videotape came out, Kemp came out for it, Republicans across the country came out for it, and then Black conservatives came out for it. They look for the okay, right? Shout out, even though she's a horrible human when she talks about this one right here, at least she had the gall to say what she wanted to say. And I'm not defending what she had to say, but she didn't have the talking point.
Who's the she?
Candace.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So does it matter if Black conservatives care about this? Well, absolutely not. They haven't done much for the community in general in a hot little minute. So we can't concern ourselves with those things. What we can concern ourselves with is there something else going on? And what I mean by that is, does the Republican Party and these Republican candidates and these Republican elected officials, do they know that justice is fundamentally not going to be served? And do they also think that the standard is we have to have a damn video for you to believe us? That's problematic.
So let's be clear, and because I'm deeply involved in what's happening in Georgia right now as it pertains to Ahmaud Arbery's case, not the legal side, but all of the legislation that we're hoping that's going to come out of it, all of the organizing and the training and the infrastructure building in Brunswick, in Glenn County, and also all over the southeast part of Georgia and the entire state. Let's be clear. There's a couple things that's going on. One, the Black conservatives responded because of what Candace Owens did to their brand. If you look at their messages, if you really read their messages, they were worried about their brand. Like, we can't grow Black conservatives with this one talking like this. God bless her soul. Like, so I'm not really concerned with Black conservatives. What I am concerned with, though, Candace Owens brings up an important part. Candace Owens and other activists, celebrity activists, let's call them that, on both sides are problematic in this case because there's an a coalition in Georgia. And to be clear, Black Male Voters Project is part of that. Just Georgia is leading the effort led by the Georgia NAACP to address all of the harms, not just, but especially the murdering of Ahmaud Arbery, but also, like we need to get rid of, Georgia has a citizen arrest, which these guys said was their defense. They didn't say it was a defense. Right. One of the district attorneys told them this was their defense, right? Yeah, which is problematic in 100 different ways anyway. So what I'm saying though is Candace Owens is a problem every day of the week, all the time. That's not what we need to be fired up about. We need to be fired up about the fact that Georgia has a citizen arrest law that allows this to happen. And this video isn't what sparked this, because guess what happened? The cops, the district attorney, and everybody in authority saw this video February 23rd when this video was showed to them on the scene. They made no arrests. They only cared.
Two local cops recommended an arrest, and the
DA said no.
By the DA.
Right. Yes. So what I'm saying to you all is there's some serious infrastructure, and I'm not here to defend anybody, but the third person who filmed the video, actually him and his attorney on Cuomo last night, and then on all of the media rounds today, said that they didn't know the other two. They didn't know the man. He was a neighbor. He went out. What is interesting though is the person whose house that Ahmaud Arbery went through, the unbuilt house, actually said he looked at the video and there was no problem. Like he said, the guy went in, he was there for a few seconds, and he left on his own accord without taking anything and continued his job. The video showed that. Anybody saying anything else in that video, they don't understand what it means to be a curious human in a time in COVID where we have nothing else to do. I'm a country boy. There's been plenty of times I went places I probably shouldn't have went. Even the owner said no one told him to leave. He left on his own accord. So the fact that he was murdered for something that's not even a crime is ridiculous to me.
So here's the thing I want to add to this, and I think this is important to understand. Both of you guys sort of alluded to this idea of branding with Black conservatives. So a little bit about Dr. Jason Johnson's background. Either you guys familiar with the organization called Project 21? You guys remember them?
I remember them. I don't know.
So Project 21 back in, almost 20 years ago, was an outfit that was more or less a way to get centrist or conservative Black folk into media. It was like an organization. It was like a funnel. It's like, hey, you want your Black conservative, you want your Black centrist, you want somebody who could say something a little critical about Bill Clinton but not be a crazy person. You know, it was a space for, you're not quite Armstrong Williams. I'm going back in the day. You're not quite Armstrong Williams, right? But you also aren't. Who was the guy? Who was the Prop 209 guy? You guys remember him? You remember his name? The light-skinned Black guy who was like trying to end affirmative action in California. Marcus, you were in Arizona. You got to remember his name.
That's a state over, bro.
He was like, I know I'm gonna remember his name. Somebody's got to touch this. This is the guy. He was like Wade. No,
it was Ward Anthony, bro.
Ward Connerly.
Yeah, Ward Anthony Connolly or something.
Yeah,
whatever.
Anthony Connolly. It was some name that sounded like he was the extra on the Fresh Prince. Anyway, the point is, they were trying to find a space between Armstrong Williams, who was just a conservative and Republican, and like Ward Connerly, who literally seemed like the character from like Soldier Story. Like he just seemed like he just disliked Black people as a fundamental thing. Anyway, I say that because for the last 20, 25 years, Black moderates and conservatives have been sort of fighting this battle of improving their brand. It has gone completely off the rails since Trump got into office, because the Black people that Trump tends to attract are oftentimes apolitical grifters who are part of a personality cult and don't have any real ideological mooring either in conservatism, conservative moral issues, or conservative political issues. So what I say to Marcus, I'm curious about this, can you think of anybody out there? Can you think of any Black person out there? Can you think of anybody in the regular community who, first off, cares about what Candace Owens has to say, or second, would look differently at Black Republicans or conservatives under Trump if they came out for Ahmaud Arbery? I don't see how that necessarily moves the needle one way or another.
They're not factored. I mean,
yeah.
It's not even a conversation worth having. They're not factored. You know, here's the thing. If a Black conservative decides to watch this right here, here's what you got to do, right? You got to go ahead and say, okay, here's the moment where you take your guns and you get your guns, right? They could have did this 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Strap up. There's different ways that Black conservatives could have done well with actually getting African Americans. I mean, if you think about it, the myth is that the Black church is a conservative place, but they don't honestly can't explain the racist policies that have happened under every single Republican administration. And
not just Trump.
Yeah, not just Trump,
not just Trump.
Republican administration, and then try to gaslight us thinking that Obama and Clinton were the worst things for us at the same time, but you're trying to big up somebody who literally is trying to put us in jail or kill us, right? Stand your ground laws. Like, they are literally trying to sell stand your ground laws to Black Americans during the age of Trayvon Martin and Black Lives Matter, right? So they're a non-factor. They have a bad press person. They have a bad ethos,
which they have earned.
Yeah.
And I'll add something to this. This is really interesting. So back in the day, Reince Priebus, right? You guys are familiar. The audience doesn't know. Reince Priebus used to be head of the Republican National Committee, right? And when Reince was there, he had a group of 4 African Americans who did the PR for Black people for the RNC. And it was really during the Obama administration. A lot of those people were also hired by Michael Steele, who used to be the head of the RNC. Black guy. I know Michael. He's a very, very good guy to me. I enjoy him. He's a great person to chat with.
He's also not crazy.
Well, he's not crazy. Yeah, I mean, like, I like Michael. Like, I like Michael personally, even if I disagree with him. He's always been good to me. I came and spoke to his classes up at Dartmouth, whatever it is. I mean, Brown. Mike's a great guy, even when we disagree. But
Brown is a racist institution.
He's not a nut. He's not a nut. But the point of all this is that Reince and Michael at least had this group of Black folk who would go out and they would go to NABJ and they would go to NSB and they would go to Black events and they would talk to people, not to harass, not to be jerks, but they would sit there and they would have conversations. And yeah, sometimes we clown them. Shout out to my boy Orlando, who was like, became a good colleague of mine. I don't know if Tara Setmeyer was ever involved in that group, but there were several different Black people. And what's key, and this goes to this whole Candace Owens thing, when Donald Trump became the party nominee, that squad disbanded. And I talked to them and I wrote an article about this because many of those Black Republicans are like, yo, I can't go back home to Michigan. I can't go back to Tennessee. I can't go back to Texas and say I'm a Black Trump Republican. I can be a Republican. I can't be a Black Trump Republican. And I think people like Candace Owens, I agree with Marcus. Look, I don't care what she does. I don't retweet her. I don't give her much attention because these people are grifters. But
here's the problem with grifters. Well, especially Candace Owens. So Candace Owens got an invite by Diddy, who wants to hold the Black vote hostage, like he is, he is the speaker. You know I want to go there, but I'm gonna keep it 100.
We just digging a bigger hole here. I can't wait.
But listen, let me be 100. So Candace Owens got an invite by Diddy to the Revolt Summit in Atlanta, Georgia. This is Black. This is the Black capital of the United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guess what happened at that event? Candace Owens she left looking like she was a damn G. She got more round of applause than T.I. and Killer Mike because what they were saying was incongruent with like what strategy is, what policies we should be pushing forward. And then so we can discount Candace Owens for sure. But in an organized message, not talking trash about the dead body that is, or the dead soul that is Ahmaud Arbery's, we still have to worry about that type of targeting from Republicans that's cleaned up and also designed to depress or suppress the Black vote. And it's gonna happen.
Were you at that event? Were you at that Revolt event? Or did you see it?
I walked by. It wasn't really that interesting. I watched it live.
Okay, I didn't see it, so enlighten me.
I do have 2 points to make. The first point is very simple, man. Like, it's cool to be a conservative. You could be a conservative.
What?
Just don't hurt our people, right? Like, there's
exactly.
So are you talking about like conservative in philosophy, not in conservative like Republican?
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, that distinction
because there's a difference between being a conservative and being a conservative Republican.
Absolutely.
Just don't hurt our people. Second, I got to point back to my party because I already know like the Republicans are the mask on KKK at points, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I said it. At points. The one part about the Republican Party that you got to give them is they empower their crazies. Stop
talking about Trump like that.
Yeah, if I'm absolutely nuts and I'm black and I'm
You
talking
get paid.
No, follow me now. And I'm talking about, let's insert word here. I'm crazy, I'm black, I'm outspoken, and I say reparations. My part is going to be like, nah.
Go sit down.
Yeah, get your ass up out of here. But if I say I'm crazy, I'm black, and I support gun ownership, the Republican Party is going to be like, that's our guy. That's our guy right there, right? So we have to start understanding the nuance of it and actually what brings attention to things. So we don't embrace, and I'm not even going to say our crazy, but our outspoken folks. Like Mondale says many times, and Jason, you said, King wasn't popular when he was alive. The Democratic Party wouldn't mess with
no.
Oh no. Don't just put that on white people though, because our people didn't mess with King.
Everybody thought
He didn't even get invited. So he didn't even get invited to speak to the Baptist convention, the Black Baptist convention, the last year he was living, because he was so radical.
I will add, whether it's Ward Connerly or Arthur Davis in Alabama or whatever, I used to joke about this when I was in graduate school, when I was working on my doctorate. I was like, look, if I ever had to worry about a job, all I got to do is make a heel turn and write a dissertation called Martin Luther King is a communist adulterer, and I would be rich in 5 minutes. All I have to do, it's not hard. If you decide that you want to be the black person and spout Republican talking points, if I wanted to become the black male version of Jordan Peterson, I'd be paid tomorrow. They'd probably resurrect 5 different conservative channels and give me a show on Fox. There is always money in being the black person who does it, just like there's always money in being the woman who attacks progressive policies for women. There's always money in that. But I think what's key, sort of what Marcus is talking about, is that the idea of embracing your outspoken people and your outspoken people of color is something that Republicans have always been comfortable with. They will have their diamond in silk. I don't think the Democratic Party had a diamond in silk.
Well, because here's the thing, outspoken. The difference is, here's the difference. While we claim to be, I'm getting calls from everybody, guys. Give me a second. People might be upset with what we're saying. While we claim that, Marcus, answer this question while I mute my computer.
Okay. I was just saying, like, there is no Democratic version of diamond and silk, but Republicans will take people who don't make any sense if they're people of color, and they'll put them out. That's my thing.
We also have to think about who the power structure has. The power structure has black mayors. The Democratic power structure has black senators, black U.S.
at every level.
We have black
at every level.
So you got to understand something. The talking points that go from the outspoken person down here, or even over here, like to the left or below, those talking points get filtered up through the power structures. Like, right. We have to say that, right?
And it's also worth noting that the black that if you're far left, then you're pulling the party somewhere they don't want to be, because it's affecting their money, right? It's affecting their money, and also the black left isn't a crazy. It's not a crazy space. It's a space about progressive policies that benefit the entire country. Whereas diamonds and silks of the world say crazy stuff about Corona, and Candace Owens say crazy stuff about a dead person who was killed for nothing other than jogging while black.
Right. I mean, she got kicked. I mean, both of these people. Look, YouTube and Facebook and Twitter allow all sorts of shenanigans to occur. And all sorts of harassment, using dots and everything else like that. But that's just it. It's like Diamond and Silk got kicked off of was it Facebook?
Twitter.
Candace Owens was suspended from Twitter.
Diamond and Silk got kicked off Twitter forever.
Oh, see, I can't even keep track. And this is funny. I generally don't believe in cancel culture, but like when you get canceled off Twitter, do you know how bad you have to be for Twitter to actually cancel you?
I think Republicans run Twitter, right?
Hey, listen, I don't think Jack is a Republican. I think Jack is a Democrat, but I'm not certain. But
Jackie who?
I don't know anything about Jack's politics. I know Jack about Jack's politics.
But I want to just say one.
Jack who? What did I miss?
Jack who's like the guy behind Twitter.
And I'm going to bring up reparations.
It's some conservative people behind Twitter, but let's go ahead.
I'll bring it up is because we just got another $2 trillion thrown at the economy again. And at some point, and we're talking about crazies, right? At some point, I remember Bernie not pushing reparations, and the whole conversation I had. You can read many articles that I wrote on it.
What are you talking about? Like, you talking about like December of last year? You ain't got to go back far to remember that.
Yeah, oh, right. So here's the thing. If you notice, most Black, even if you're highly educated, respected people, as soon as you say the word reparations, something that we know we might even have the money for, especially during coronavirus, you get blocked, you get chastised, and you immediately have to be held accountable for what's real and what's possible to do and what's not possible to do. So that's what I mean about outspoken voices on the Democratic side of the house. But on the Republican side of the house, you know, if we say all lives matter, which is literally the opposite of reparations to me in some ways, like Black Lives Matter, right? Then if you say all lives matter and you're Black, you get to have a fully feature on the Fox News cover. So I mean, it's just,
we also need to, because we are clickbaity and title, and that's it. We are factual based, opinionated brothers, right?
4
so
trillion.
What happened?
4 trillion.
$4 trillion. Just
no, not that. About Twitter. So Twitter, you're absolutely right. Jack's politics are his politics. But what I was mentioning was Paul Elliott, who is a Republican mega donor, a billionaire, bought a sizable portion of Twitter to push them to the right. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, so this is money. This is how you influence politics while not being political, so to say, right? So he bought a sizable portion of Twitter so as to control the narrative by allowing Donald Trump and other people to run craziness as the norm over there.
Y'all and your crazy conspiracy.
You want to know who Jason, real quick.
Conspiracy theories, yes.
You want to know who I blame for what's going on with Twitter right now?
Who do you blame?
Larry King. Y'all might not remember Larry King. Suspenders on CNN and Ashton Kutcher. Ask me why. I know that looks random, right?
I know Ashton is the first celebrity who really popularized Twitter.
Let me tell you when he popularized.
I don't understand.
Okay, so let me tell you when he popularized Twitter. When Twitter first was created, it was just us nerds. It was beautiful space where nerds shared smart things that was based on facts, science, and also like strategy. This is the beginning of Twitter. Like, it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was one night on Larry King's show, him and Ashton Kutcher, Larry King interviewing, made a bet with Ashton Kutcher who could be the first person to 1 million followers. And from that point on, Twitter has been just that. Who can get the most followers? Regardless of what you say to get those followers, that's all Twitter is. I know you got a huge following, Jason, and I'm not saying this.
I will say this.
I'm just telling you, Twitter is a lot of trash.
I will say this, both from a technical standpoint and because we're coming up on the time where I'm going to make my sort of final comment, and you guys will tackle the rest of our topics for the evening. I don't think Twitter is trash any more so than I think television is trash, any more so than I think movies are trash. I think it's the silos you go through. I mean, one of the things I used to talk to my class about all the time is that the inventor of the television, most people don't know who actually invented the television. You guys know? There's an actual inventor of the television, a guy named Philo Farmer.
Yeah, but here's the problem with Philo. He lost his argument.
I thought his name was Tello.
Yeah, no. It's not his name, television, Marcus. He actually lost the problem with it, though, is Philo lost the argument on what television was going to be. Is it going to be for educating or entertaining? And it's simply for entertaining.
But the point being that regardless of the idealistic beliefs that we use to launch a particular format, it's still going to evolve. And what it will be and what it'll be long term is never something that most people can predict. But I say that because it leads in part to sort of my closing comment of the day. And I think this is really critical. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot. I've been thinking a lot about basketball. And I've been thinking about basketball because I, like a lot of people in this country, have been watching The Last Dance. And we're going to have conversations about The Last Dance. We're going to have conversations about what that means and all sorts of other topics or whatever. But I want to talk about labor. There have been conversations lately about what it will take in this country to reopen sports. Will we have baseball? Will there be an NFL season? Will there be an NBA season? We're talking about men and some women who have spent their entire lives dedicating themselves to a sport that requires them to keep their bodies in peak position. Their money comes from their bodies, and they put their bodies on the line in order to entertain us to the tune of millions and billions of dollars all over the world. And instead, what we're seeing, regardless of what you may have thought about football since Kaepernick, regardless of what you may have think about basketball since Donald Sterling, we are literally seeing sports leagues offer up Black and brown bodies literally as a human sacrifice for our entertainment. I didn't stop watching football after Kaepernick's protest because I enjoy football and I always thought these owners were terrible people. It was just a reflection of what was already going on. I didn't stop watching Clippers games because of Donald Sterling, because he's just the racist who happened to get caught. Pay attention to what was going on in Mark Cuban's organization. I think all of these people can be problematic. But we're reaching a point where we are still in the midst of a pandemic, and people whose entire lives can only be used for 6 to 8 years based on what their bodies can do are being told, don't just risk your body to play the game. Risk your entire life to keep us entertained. I ask each and every person out there who cares about baseball, who cares about basketball, who cares about soccer, don't be suckered by the narratives that you're hearing from Roger Goodell. Don't be suckered by the narratives that you're hearing from Adam Silver. President Trump wants sports to come back because he wants bread and circuses, and he doesn't care if Black lives are ended or irreparably harmed for that entertainment. We can watch our people suffer, we can watch our people be in harm, we can cheer, we can throw popcorn, and we can enjoy it. But we should never be in favor of watching our people sacrifice their very lives for a sport that we can pass on for at least another 8 to 10 months. Thank you guys so very much. Had a fantastic time per usual. We are out. I want to tell everybody who's watching the show, if you want to follow me, you can follow me at Dr. Jason Johnson. You want to follow Marcus, you can follow him at
Marcus for America
on the Twitters. And Mondale, if you want to follow him, you can follow him at
I am Mondale Robinson everywhere.
Make sure you tweet us, screenshot, take pictures, smile. We'll catch you guys on Thursday. We're out.
Trap squad, 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 trap squad. Hey, clickbaity political. Yeah, thirst trap, trap squad, squirrel squad. Our mission is critical to speak the truth to the masses. We here for the fight. We ain't started, but we here to finish it. Sick and tired of seeing the privilege. Take advantage of the weak and the innocent. So we let our voice be heard. Every single weeknight. Unapologetic. Black people, despite this white supremacist system that we live through on a daily, we still throwing up those acorns cause we represent clickbaity. Trap squad, trap squad, trap squad, let me hear ya. Trap squad, trap squad. Throw those squirrels up if you with it. Trap squad, trap squad. Yeah, I see you, yeah, I see you. Trap squad, trap squad, trap squad. Thirst trap, trap squad, trap squad, trap squad. Let me hear ya. Trap squad, trap squad. Throw those squirrels up if you with it. Trap squad, trap squad. Yeah, I see you, yeah, I see you. Trap squad.